Hi, welcome to yet another video web clip from Divination Counseling Service. I'm Colleen. Welcome. Today we're going to do another tarot reading. Today I'd actually like to look at the lay and the cards and talk about how the story is built up. And I thought that the best way to do that would be not to dwell on an article first, which is what I usually do, but to actually sit here and lay out my cards. So I'm going to use today, I do have them, my Rider-Waite deck, which is, I believe, probably one of the easiest decks for learning. So this will be a good teaching instruction, if you will. So we're going to look at a lay. And the lay I decided to do today, because so many people do it, is the cross. But I'm going to warn you that today I'm going to do a real reading. So that means that I'm going to be using a reverse cards as well as the upright cards, just to give you a heads up. I just kind of want to show how to build a story. I also want to show here how reverse cards really can work and how they can really shed some light on what you're doing. So as I'm shuffling up, I have my own little ritual here. I'm going to start, as I always do, with 3 piles. Okay? So I'm going to now adjust so that you can see my work. Okay? There we are. Now, my place here is rather small, and I actually do large lays when I read privately. But again, I don't want to overwhelm anybody, and I truly want to make a lot of what I'm doing for people who are learning. So I'm not out there looking for the experts. I'm actually looking for those people who are just beginning their journey and want to give this a shot. So the first card up, and it just so happens that it's upright because I have to look at it as it's facing me, because that's how that works, is the Wheel of Fortune. So that's good fortune. I always tell people it seems sometimes to drop in out of nowhere, and so that would be one of our cards that we're going to start with, okay? So I'm going to lay that card at the top. I'm then going to take all the cards back because that'll become my significator. So we're looking at the Wheel of Fortune. Now, I don't always read that way, just for people to understand. I actually read so that all 3 of those cards would then represent significators, and then I build a reading from that. But for our purposes, since, again, I don't want to overwhelm anybody, I'm only going to use one significator. And that will be our first card, which is the Wheel of Fortune. So what we're looking for here is good karma, good fortune, and we're looking for that wheel. And it is upright. Okay. Now, had it been reversed, it would be telling us a different story. Okay. So we want to look at that Wheel of Fortune as upright. When the Wheel of Fortune is not upright, then that would be telling us in reverse a very different story. It would be telling us the worst is over with. And it's still telling us it's getting better, but it's like letting you know you've just been through something. Here, we're more or less getting something that could come out of the blue. So like our reading, it's coming out of the blue. What crosses are coming out of the blue is the Sun card, and I want to point out that even though it's what cross is, and I want to explain that, they're both major arcana, which is really, really interesting. The fact that it crosses the Wheel of Fortune is also telling us that it's our own expectation, because the Sun card is oftentimes our building for the future. If it's upside down, there's a depression because we thought we'd be further in life by now. So it's those seeds that take us into the future. So what we hope of our Wheel of Fortune and what crosses us is that it hopefully is the seeds that take us. In other words, it's not just a good day, but it's actually something that will take us onward. The base of the situation is our first reverse card. And ironically, it's a card that's actually good in reverse for me. So the upside down 8 of Cups. So in the 8 of Cups, and I just read for somebody who actually had an 8 of Cups earlier today, it kind of indicates when it's right set up that you're doing the right things for the right reasons and you're just pursuing your own. When you get it upside down, it doesn't mean you're not pursuing the right things for the right reasons, but what it might be telling you is to accept help from other people. So in this position, what is the foundation of the two cards I've already laid would be accepting help from other people. Are we willing to accept help from other people? Okay? So I now continue around my circle, and what is behind me, which would be off to my left, and as a dancer, and a choreographer, there really is a difference between stage left and stage right. So just like the stage, the left can represent the past. So here we have a King of Swords. Now, I'm going to read this every way I can because this is just an open reading, and I don't know what it's going to mean to you. It could mean something to you. I'm not putting a meaning on it because I want the person watching the video to do that. So here we have a King of Swords, and it's right side up. So with the swords we know of as stress, but since it's right side up, I would say that it's a professional situation or individual, particularly a male, who is supportive of the situation or who's working on behalf of the situation. Oftentimes when we hire people to do work for us, such as lawyers or accountants. As it's a passing card, the Wheel of Fortune could also be our own, what we've developed in the past, our own professionalism, if you will, or our own sense of duty. Because when I read this card, if I'm reading as an individual, it's usually somebody with a title or a uniform. Well, what is title? What are titles? Excuse me. Well, a lot of times people with titles are entitled. I shouldn't say they're entitled. They have a pursuit of something. They're professional. So think of this as our profession in this particular case, or our pursuit, if you will. I actually talked to somebody about that stuff this morning. Our duty. Duty is a great word because I think of people who wear uniforms as people who do duty, like officers and military people. Okay, they have a call to duty often. The card that is crowning the situation is an Ace of Pentacles in reverse, which means that seeds that have been planted have been more trouble than they're worth. Oh, how many of us feel that way right now? Our good fortune is marred by seeds that often come about that are more trouble than they're worth. The card in the sixth position, or the future, because now we're going to the right of the reading. Again, you're in the opposite position because I'm reading from my perspective, but is the Emperor card upright. Again, 3 major arcanas out of 6 cards. That's pretty good. Okay, means that we are talking about something to somebody out there, and I'm hoping that whoever you are, you're getting a message. But it's talking about how there are decisions made by other people that will give you something. More responsibility, more credit, more kudos, but is somebody in authority giving you something? Now, needless to say, if it's in reverse, and just to see what it looks like. If it's in reverse, it means that people in authority are making decisions without considering you. Not always a good thing. Okay, but that's not our case. In this case, they are really giving something good. So those in authority are coming through. It talks about the ladder. So let's talk about the ladder in each position, because you have your negative position or your negative feeling, which in this case is lack of confidence. The Queen of Pentacles is a lot about confidence. She happens to be reversed because remember, I'm reading. And it's showing a lack of confidence. So what is it that this reading is telling us? Is we have to overcome our own lack of confidence. It's ironic because I actually had a very similar reading this morning. So wonderful. It's coming up. So I'm thinking perhaps my client is not the only one that needs to consider that. So the other negative is the vulnerability. Okay, so a lot of times people are afraid to take risks because they're just too vulnerable. Okay, and that's like your outside. In other words, the economy, the sources that we really don't have as much control of are in that 8th position. The 7th position would be your own. The 8th position. This is to me. This is not an absolute. This is just how I read it. And to me, this is a vulnerability that is the result of perhaps a lack of confidence, but also the surrounding, the outer story here might not be a story of strength. So if you're looking for good fortune and to set yourself up for the future, there might be some vulnerability because we're not looking at either there's an issue of maybe that job doesn't exist. If it were a job, maybe if you're looking for love, you haven't. So their negativity is you're vulnerable. Okay, so be careful. The hopes and wishes is a karma card, ironically. It's about a relationship, but it's talking about how people are not on the same page. Now that's interesting because the hopes and wishes of people not being on the same page, but it's also referring to the fact that that is karmatic. So regardless of what's going on there, it's almost a state of mind factor. Here we go with, are the people around you supporting you? In this particular case, they are not supporting. Okay, and this can be anything. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the government. So all of those things are going to keep us, even as a country, from evolving. There's your vulnerability. There's your lack of confidence. And there's a lot of karmic struggle because that's the reason why we are where we are. The outcome card is beautiful. It's right side up. It's the way you want to see this puppy. And this card here is that of happiness, not just of yourself, but of the people that are around you. And that's so exciting because when anything happens good in life, isn't it better when it's shared with many others? Now, in reverse, it might be everybody's waiting for that happiness. So again, it's not a bad card either way. It's just that when you get it upright like this, it's even better. By the same token, I know I spoke about this as an upside down as karma. It's actually karma right side up too. This would be karma that's supportive. So this would be like a karmic relationship where there's a lot of support. Here, it means it's still a karmic relationship, just not a whole lot of support. Sounds so familiar with what we know astrologically going on in the skies right now. And I am going to leave it at that. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you gained something through this card reading. I don't have an idea of who it was really meant for, but I can't help but thinking that it was meant for all of you. And the fact that it carried with it three out of 10 major arcana cards means it's got to hit home somewhere. And with that said, I'm going to wish you all happy readings and take care until next time.